Captain Jun Park stood on the bridge of the Earth diplomatic vessel Horizon, gazing at the glittering crystalline structures of the Kalian Empire's capital world. The massive blue-green planet hung in space before them, surrounded by rings of shimmering materials that the ship's sensors couldn't quite identify. This was humanity's first official contact with an advanced alien civilization, and as the mission commander, Jun felt the weight of 6 billion human lives on his shoulders. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Commander Hannah Lee, coming to stand beside him. "Hard to believe we're actually here." 7 years of travel to reach this point, Jun replied, his eyes never leaving the view. "Let's hope it was worth it." The Horizon had been dispatched after Earth's deep space telescopes detected the Kalian signals. The aliens had already known about Earth for centuries, but had classified humans as a developing species not yet ready for contact. It was only after humans developed faster-than-light communication that the Kalians decided to answer. "Captain," called out Communications Officer Kim, "we're receiving docking instructions from Kalia Prime Control." Jun straightened his uniform jacket. "Take us in, Lieutenant Shin." "Exactly as instructed. No deviations." "Yes, Captain." The Horizon glided through the upper atmosphere of Kalia Prime. Through the viewports, the crew could see floating cities suspended in the air, connected by threads of light that pulsed with energy. Buildings spiraled upward in impossible shapes, defying Earth physics. "All crew, prepare for diplomatic reception," Jun announced over the ship's comm. "First contact team to the main airlock." The ship docked at a floating platform that seemed to be made of living crystal. It pulsed with soft blue light as the Horizon's systems integrated with the alien technology. "Atmosphere is breathable," reported Science Officer J. "Gravity is 0.8 of Earth standard. Temperature comfortable for humans." Jun nodded. "Let's not keep our hosts waiting." The first contact team gathered at the airlock. Jun, Hannah, G, and their xenolinguist Dr. Min. Each wore the formal blue and gold uniform of Earth's United Space Command, with small patches showing Earth's flag on their shoulders. "Remember," Jun said quietly, "we represent all of humanity now. No pressure." The team shared a nervous laugh as the airlock cycled open. Standing on the other side was the most alien being Jun had ever seen. Princess Neri stood nearly 7 feet tall, her slender body covered in iridescent blue skin that rippled with patterns of bioluminescence. Her 4-fingered hands ended in short claws, and her large almond-shaped eyes were entirely black, with flecks of silver that seemed to move like stars. A crown-like structure of crystal grew naturally from her forehead. Behind her stood 6 Kalian guards, each holding what appeared to be ceremonial staffs made of the same living crystal as the platform. Princess Neri's mouth didn't move, but her translator device emitted perfect English. "Welcome to Kalia Prime," she said, her voice melodic despite the translation. "I confess we rarely receive visitors so evolutionarily distinct." Jun bowed deeply, as briefed by xenocultural experts. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we are honored by your hospitality, Your Highness." The princess's skin flashed with patterns that the humans couldn't interpret. "You speak our language well. For beings without translation implants." "We've been studying your transmissions for years," Jun explained, "though I'm sure our pronunciation leaves much to be desired." This earned another flash of light across the princess's skin. Most species don't bother to learn. They simply rely on technology. She gestured with a graceful sweep of her arm. "Please follow me. The diplomatic spire awaits your delegation." As they walked from the docking platform, Jun noticed that the princess moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost like swimming through air. The humans followed, trying not to gawk at the incredible sights around them. The pathway to the diplomatic spire was a transparent bridge that hung suspended thousands of feet above the actual surface of the planet. Below them, Jun could see vast oceans and forests of plants unlike anything on Earth. "Our world has 3 main biomes," Princess Neri explained as they walked. "The oceanic depths where our species evolve, the floating cities where we conduct most affairs, and the surface wilderness we preserve for ecological balance. It's breathtaking, Hannah commented sincerely. As they reached the middle of the bridge, the gravity suddenly fluctuated. The Kalian guards remained perfectly still, but Princess Neri turned, clearly expecting the humans to stumble or panic. Instead, the Earth team simply adjusted their stance and continued walking. Years of space travel had made them accustomed to gravity changes. June noticed the princess's skin flash with what he guessed might be surprise. "Your species is remarkably resilient," she commented. "Most first-time visitors require assistance during gravity shifts." June smiled politely. "Humans adapt quickly, Your Highness. It's one of our better qualities." The diplomatic spire rose before them, a twisting structure that seemed to be made of thousands of crystalline fragments held together by energy fields. Inside, the walls changed color as they passed, responding to the presence of the visitors. "The spire recognizes new genetic patterns," Princess Neri explained. "It's adding you to its memory." They were led to a circular chamber with a view that overlooked the entire floating city. The sun was beginning to set, casting the crystal structures in shades of orange and purple. "Tomorrow, you will meet with the Emperor," Princess Neri said. "For now, please rest and acclimate to our world." As the princess turned to leave, June stepped forward. "Your Highness, if I may ask a personal question." She paused, her head tilting curiously. "You may. Why did you choose to welcome us personally? Surely a princess has more important duties than greeting visitors from a developing world." The patterns on her skin rippled in complex waves. "Curiosity, Captain Park. For centuries, we've observed Earth from afar. Your species is young, yet you've survived challenges that have destroyed older civilizations. You fight among yourselves constantly, yet unite when threatened. You're fragile compared to many species, yet you've survived on a planet that has tried to kill you countless times." She moved to the window, gazing at the sunset. "Perhaps there is more to learn from Earth than we initially believed." June joined her at the window, watching as the alien sun dipped below the horizon, casting the last rays of light across the crystalline city. "Tomorrow then," he said quietly, "we begin learning from each other." 3 weeks passed quickly on Kalia Prime. Captain June Park and his team made good progress in their diplomatic talks. The humans learned about Kalian technology, while the aliens studied Earth culture with great interest. Princess Neri spent more time with the Earth delegation than required by her duties. She especially enjoyed talking with Captain Park. Each day, she would find reasons to show him more of her world. Together, they visited crystal gardens where plants grew in geometric patterns, and underwater chambers where ancient Kalian art floated in suspension fields. "Tell me more about Earth," Neri asked during one of their walks through the palace grounds. "Your oceans interest me greatly." "Our oceans are mostly unexplored," June explained. "We know more about the surface of our moon than the deepest parts of our seas." Neri's skin rippled with blue patterns that June had learned meant surprise. "Yet you ventured into space before fully understanding your own world. How curious." Their peaceful discussions ended abruptly one evening. June was preparing for a formal dinner with Emperor Ta when emergency alarms echoed throughout the palace. The sound was high-pitched and pulsing, making the humans cover their ears in pain. Commander Hannah rushed into June's quarters. "Captain, the Kalians are in chaos. Something about an attack on an outpost." Moments later, June's communication device lit up with Princess Neri's signal. Her normally calm face showed clear distress, the patterns on her skin flashing rapidly. "Captain Park, please proceed to the Imperial Hall immediately. We are under threat from the Moro hegemony." At the Imperial Hall, Emperor Ta stood surrounded by military advisors. Holographic displays showed the destruction of a Kalian research outpost. Unlike his daughter, the Emperor's blue skin was dark and almost patternless with age. The crystal crown on his head was larger and more elaborate than Neri's. "The Moro have declared that all allies of Kalia will be considered enemies," the Emperor announced when the humans arrived. "This includes Earth." Earth has no quarrel with these Moro, Jun said carefully. We've never even heard of them until now. A Kalian official with military markings projected a new hologram. It showed ships of an unfamiliar design. They were dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Moro hegemony has monitored our contact with your world, Princess Neri explained. They view any expansion of our influence as a threat. The dinner proceeded despite the tension, now transformed into a war council. Kalian nobles and military leaders joined the Earth delegation at a massive crystal table. Foods of both worlds were served as they discussed the Moro threat. Jun noticed servants he hadn't seen before moving through the hall. Something about their movements seemed off, too stiff, too purposeful. When one of these servants approached Princess Neri with a tray, Jun saw a flash of metal beneath the tray. Without thinking, he lunged across the table, tackling the princess just as a blade whistled through the air where she had been sitting. They crashed to the floor as chaos erupted in the hall. The false servant pulled another weapon, but Jun was faster. He kicked upward from his position on the floor, knocking the weapon away, then rolled to his feet in a fluid motion. The assassin, now clearly not Kalian, but a gray-skinned being with ridged features, charged at Jun. Using the hand-to-hand combat techniques all Earth officers learned, Jun sidestepped the attack, grabbed the assassin's arm, and used the attacker's momentum to flip him onto his back. Palace guards quickly surrounded the fallen assassin, while others secured the hall. 3 more infiltrators were captured at different points in the room. Princess Neri stared at Jun with wide eyes as he helped her to her feet. Her skin pulsed with patterns he hadn't seen before. "How did you move so quickly?" she asked. "Our sensors indicate your muscles should not be capable of such speed." Jun shrugged modestly. "Human reflexes. We evolved as prey animals before becoming predators. Sometimes fear makes us faster than we should be." Emperor Te approached, his guards forming a protective circle around him. He studied Jun with new interest. "You saved my daughter's life," he said through his translator. "The Kalian Empire owes you a debt." Later that night, the Emperor called for a private meeting with the Earth delegation. In a chamber lined with ancient Kalian technology, he made his proposal. "The Moro hegemony poses a threat to both our worlds," Emperor Ta began. "Your Earth is particularly vulnerable, with only basic planetary defenses." Jun nodded cautiously. Earth had only recently developed its first line of orbital defense platforms. They would be no match for the Moro ships they had seen in the holograms. "We offer an alliance," the Emperor continued. "We can protect your primitive world from the Moro threat." His skin darkened slightly. "In exchange for exclusive rights to your quantum communication research." Jun felt a chill. Earth's quantum communication breakthrough was barely 10 years old, but it had revolutionized their technology. Giving another species exclusive rights would set human development back decades. "With respect, Emperor, I must consult with Earth government before responding to such a proposal," Jun replied carefully. The Emperor's skin darkened further. "Of course. But know that the Moro will not wait for your diplomacy." After the meeting, Princess Neri found Jun on one of the observation decks, looking out at the night sky. "I wanted to thank you properly," she said, joining him. "My life would have ended today without your intervention." "Anyone would have done the same," Jun replied. "No," Neri said firmly. "Most species act to protect themselves first. Your instinct was to protect another." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Jun noticed her skin glowing with soft patterns that seemed almost shy. "My father's terms are harsh," she said finally, "but he fears for our people. The Moro have destroyed many civilizations. Earth cannot give up its technological independence," Jun explained. "We've seen in our own history what happens when one nation controls critical technology over others." Neri's patterns shifted to what Jun had learned meant curiosity. "Tell me more about your Earth history." And so, as guards patrolled outside and war preparations continued throughout the palace, Jun told Neri about Earth's past, its empires and revolutions, its wars and peacetimes. She listened with growing fascination, asking questions about concepts like democracy and freedom that seemed strange to her. Neither of them noticed Emperor Tao watching from a distance, his ancient eyes studying the growing connection between his daughter and the human captain. The grand negotiation chamber of the Kalian Palace gleamed with living crystal that changed colors with the mood of the room. Right now, it was turning a deep warning red. Captain Jun Park stood before the full Kalian Council, 12 high-ranking nobles seated in a half-circle behind Emperor Ta. Princess Neri sat at her father's right hand, her face carefully neutral. After 3 days of emergency talks with Earth via quantum communication, Jun had his answer to the Emperor's proposal. "These terms are unacceptable," Jun stated firmly, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "Earth seeks equal partnership, not subjugation." The Kalian ministers shifted in their seats, skin patterns flashing with what Jun had learned to recognize as indignation. One minister, whose crystal crown marked him as the Minister of Defense, leaned forward. "You speak boldly for a species with no defense against the moral weapons," he said coldly. Jun stood his ground. "We appreciate the Kalian Empire's offer of protection, but surrendering our quantum technology would harm Earth's development for generations. We cannot agree to those terms." The Emperor slowly rose from his crystal throne. The room fell silent. Emperor Te rarely stood during negotiations. It was a sign that talks had reached their end. "Then perhaps we have nothing more to discuss," the Emperor said, his voice flat. "The Earth delegation may return to their ship. We will, of course, provide escort out of Moro territory." Jun saw Princess Neri's skin patterns shift rapidly. Was that worry? Her eyes met his briefly before looking away. Commander Hannah touched Jun's arm gently, a signal they had agreed upon. If negotiations failed, they would withdraw gracefully. But Jun had spent the night thinking of alternatives. Earth needed this alliance, and he believed the Kalians did too. "Emperor Te, if I may speak once more," Jun said, bowing deeply. "There is another way." The Emperor paused, then slowly sat back down. "Speak, human." Jun took a deep breath. The plan he was about to propose had been his own idea, not approved by Earth Command. If it failed, his career was over. If it succeeded, on Earth, we have an ancient tradition for cementing alliances between powerful families and nations. Jun began. "Long before modern diplomacy, we used a different method to ensure peace." He could see he had the Council's attention now. Even the defense minister leaned forward with interest. Throughout human history, royal families would join through marriage. This created bonds stronger than any treaty, as the families became one. Murmurs spread through the council. The concept wasn't entirely alien to them. Kalians understood genetic linking for political purposes, but they typically used genetic material exchange rather than actual partnerships. Jun walked deliberately toward Princess Neri. The guards tensed, but the Emperor raised a hand to stop them. The room grew utterly silent as Jun stopped before the princess. And then, to the shock of every Kalian present, he dropped to one knee before her. "Princess Neri of Kalia," Jun said clearly, looking up at her stunned face, "would you do me the honor of accepting my hand in marriage?" The silence that followed was absolute. Even the living crystal walls seemed to freeze, turning a pale, shocked white. Neri's bioluminescent patterns exploded across her skin in rapid, chaotic waves that humans would recognize as similar to a blush. Her large eyes widened, and her translator seemed to struggle with her response. "Wait, you want me to marry you?" she finally exclaimed, her voice higher than usual. "Is this some kind of human joke?" The court erupted in confused murmurs. Ministers turned to each other, skin patterns flashing in rapid conversation. The Emperor remained motionless, studying Jun with unreadable eyes. Jun remained on one knee. "It is no joke, Your Highness. A union between Earth's representative and the Kalian royal family would bind our worlds together. Your people would gain an ally with unique perspectives and abilities. Earth would gain protection and a valued friend among the stars." The defense minister stood abruptly. This is absurd. Genetic joining is done through laboratory procedures after careful compatibility testing. What the human suggests is primitive. Is it? June asked, finally rising to his feet. Your own historical records show that ancient Kalians formed pair bonds before your genetic science developed. This would be a symbolic return to that tradition, bridging both our cultures. Another council member, whose crown marked her as the science minister, leaned forward. Captain Park, Kalian and human biology is completely different. Our genetic structures are incompatible. This isn't about reproduction, June explained. It's about creating a political and personal bond that symbolizes the union of our worlds. Emperor Ta finally spoke, his deep voice cutting through the chaos. What you propose has not been done in Kalian history for 10,000 years. Sometimes old ways can solve new problems, Jun replied. The emperor turned to his daughter. Nari, you have spent the most time with the humans. What do you make of this proposal? All eyes turned to the princess. Her skin had settled into a pulsing pattern that June couldn't read. She stood slowly, her tall form towering over June. Humans form partnerships based on emotional and intellectual connections, not just genetic compatibility, she said carefully. Captain Park is suggesting a symbolic union that would satisfy both human and Kalian traditions. And what of your wishes? The emperor asked. A flash of surprise crossed Nari's face. In Kalian culture, personal wishes rarely factored into political arrangements. I find the idea intriguing, she admitted. The human delegation has shown courage, intelligence, and honor. These are traits valued by Kalians. The emperor's skin darkened in thought. This requires consideration. The council will deliberate. As guards escorted June back to the Earth delegation's quarters, he caught a last glimpse of Princess Nari. Her skin was still pulsing with that unreadable pattern, but her eyes followed him all the way out of the chamber. Back in their quarters, Commander Hannah stared at June in disbelief. You proposed marriage to an alien princess without clearing it with Earth Command. They're going to court-martial you if we ever get home. If it works, they'll promote me instead, June replied, though uncertainty gnawed at him. We need this alliance, Hannah. Earth can't face the morrow alone. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Princess Nari without her usual guards. I must speak with Captain Park, she said. Alone. The royal gardens of Kalia Prime were unlike any place on Earth. Crystal trees grew in perfect geometric patterns, their branches reaching upward like mathematical equations given form. Small flying creatures that looked like tiny moons orbited the highest branches, leaving trails of soft light behind them. Princess Nari had asked June to meet her here the morning after his surprising proposal. The council had been in heated debate for hours after he left, and no decision had been announced. June walked slowly along the path, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. He found Nari sitting beside a pool where liquid metal moved in gentle waves. Her blue skin was calm today, with only occasional ripples of light passing across it. When she saw him, she stood to her full height, towering over him by nearly a foot. Captain Park, she greeted him formally. I have many questions. I thought you might. June replied with a small smile. Please, ask anything. They began walking side by side through the garden. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Nari broke the silence. You humans choose your genetic partners based on feelings, she asked, her translator giving the last word a curious emphasis. June nodded. We call it love. It's not just about reproduction, but companionship, mutual support, shared dreams. Fascinating, Nari replied, her head frills twitching with interest. Our matches are arranged based on genetic compatibility and political advantage. Are there never partnerships based on personal choice? June asked. Sometimes, among the common classes, Nari admitted. But for royal lineage, it would be considered irresponsible to choose based on personal preference rather than optimal genetic mapping. June considered this. On Earth, Even our royalty eventually moved toward marriage by choice. Our histories show that partnerships based on mutual respect and affection often produced stronger leadership. And this, love, Neri said, testing the word carefully. How do you determine it exists? What measurements do you use? June laughed softly. We don't measure it with instruments. We feel it. Sometimes it grows slowly, sometimes it happens quickly. But you know it's real when you care more about another person's happiness than your own. Neri's skin flickered with complex patterns. That seems highly inefficient for species continuation. Perhaps, June admitted, but it makes for a meaningful life. Their philosophical discussion was suddenly interrupted by an urgent beeping from both their communication devices. Neri touched a crystal on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared between them. A Kalian military officer spoke rapidly. June couldn't understand the words, but the urgency was clear. Neri's skin darkened with what he had learned was distress. What's happening? He asked. The Moro have attacked one of our research stations, she explained quickly. There are 200 civilian scientists aboard. The station's defenses are failing. They hurried back to the palace command center. Emperor Tai and his military advisors were already viewing tactical displays when they arrived. The station will fail in 3 hours, the defense minister was saying. Our nearest ships cannot reach it in time. June studied the holographic map showing the station's location. The horizon could get there in 2 hours at maximum speed. All eyes turned to him. Your small ship against Moro destroyers. The defense minister's skin flashed with skepticism. Not to fight, June explained. To evacuate. The horizon was designed for speed and stealth. We can slip past the Moro ships, dock with the station, and get those scientists out before the Moro realize what's happening. Emperor Tai's ancient eyes studied June carefully. You would risk your only ship and Earth's entire delegation to save Kalian civilians. Yes, June said simply. 2 hours later, the horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the damaged research station. Princess Neri had insisted on coming along, against her father's wishes. She stood on the bridge beside June, watching as the burning station came into view. 3 Moro vessels circled it like predators, firing occasionally at the weakening shields. Their sensors will detect us soon, Commander Hanna warned. Begin approach, June ordered. All power to stealth systems and forward shields. The horizon slipped between the Moro ships, using the station's radiation leak as cover. They docked at an emergency airlock, and June led the rescue team aboard. Neri insisted on joining them, her knowledge of Kalian systems proving invaluable. They found the scientists huddled in the central chamber. Many were injured, and fear patterns flashed across their skin. We need to move quickly, June told them. 20 at a time through the airlock. As the evacuation proceeded, a violent explosion rocked the station. Structural beams fell, blocking one corridor where several scientists were still trapped. The reactor containment is failing, one scientist warned. Radiation levels are rising in that section. June checked the readings. The radiation would be deadly to Kalians within minutes, but humans had slightly better radiation tolerance. Get everyone else to the ship, he told Neri. I'm going after them. Before she could protest, he pulled on an emergency breathing mask and ran toward the damaged section. The corridor was hot and filling with smoke. Warning lights flashed everywhere. June found 3 Kalian scientists trapped behind fallen debris. Working quickly, he cleared a path and helped them through. The last scientist had a badly injured leg. Without hesitation, June lifted the alien over his shoulders and carried him back toward safety. By the time they reached the airlock, June's skin was red from radiation exposure. He stumbled onto the horizon, handed off the injured scientist to the medical team, and collapsed. He woke hours later in the ship's medical bay. Princess Neri sat beside his bed, her skin glowing with soft, worried patterns. The doctors say you will recover, she told him. Your species has surprising radiation resistance. Jun tried to sit up but felt dizzy. The scientists. Did everyone make it? All 203 are safe, she confirmed. The Horizon escaped before the Moro could intercept us. My father is impressed. Jun relaxed back onto the bed. Good. Nari's head frills twitched in what Jun had learned was deep thought. I do not understand why you risk your life for strangers, she said finally. They were not your species, not your responsibility. Humans protect those who cannot protect themselves, Jun explained. It's part of who we are. Nari was silent for a long moment. Then she asked, very quietly, and your proposal to me? Was that merely diplomatic strategy? Jun met her gaze directly. It started that way, he admitted honestly. But I've come to admire your intelligence, your sense of duty, your curiosity. On Earth, those are qualities we value in a partner. Nari's skin rippled with a new pattern Jun had never seen before. I believe I understand feelings a little better now, she said softly. 1 week after the rescue mission, the grand hall of the Kalian Palace was transformed. The living crystal walls pulsed with colors of celebration. Blues, golds, and whites flowing in harmonious patterns. Dignitaries from all provinces of the Kalian Empire filled the room. On the human side, the entire crew of the Horizon stood in their formal uniforms, representing Earth. Emperor Tai entered with a procession of ancient nobles. His ceremonial robes contained crystals that had been passed down through 20 generations of rulers. He took his place at the center of the hall, standing before a platform of swirling energy. Today marks a historic alliance between our peoples, Emperor Tai announced, his deep voice carrying throughout the hall, symbolized by the union of my daughter and the Earth Captain. The crowd parted as Captain Jun Park entered from one side of the hall. He wore a special uniform created for this day, earth blue with Kalian crystal accents woven into the fabric. He looked nervous but determined as he took his place on the platform. Music unlike anything heard on Earth filled the hall, tones that seemed to come from the crystal walls themselves. Then Princess Nari appeared at the far entrance. She was a vision that took Jun's breath away. Her tall, slender form was adorned in traditional Kalian crystal robes that caught and amplified the light, making her seem to glow from within. But on her head, she wore a traditional Earth wedding veil, hand-carried from Earth by the last supply ship. The delicate white fabric floated around her blue features, creating a striking contrast. As Nari walked toward the platform, Jun noticed her skin patterns were calm and steady, a sign of certainty among her people. When she reached him, she stood tall and proud beside him. Her translator was off. Instead, she spoke in careful, practiced English that she had been learning secretly for weeks. I accept your proposal, she said clearly, her alien voice wrapping around the human words with determination. Not just for diplomatic reasons, but because humans have shown me that connections can be based on more than genetic optimization. Jun smiled, touched by her effort to speak his language. And I pledge myself to you, he replied, bringing the best of Earth to stand beside the best of Kalia. Their marriage ceremony blended traditions from both worlds. They exchanged vows in both languages. They shared symbolic foods, honey from Earth and luminous nectar from Kalia. And when the time came, Jun placed a simple gold ring on Nari's long blue finger, a ring made from Earth gold, but inlaid with tiny Kalian crystals. As the ring slipped onto her finger, something unexpected happened. Nari's natural bioluminescence responded by creating a perfect circular pattern on her skin that matched the ring's placement. Gasps of wonder spread through the Kalian guests. Such a response was considered extremely rare and auspicious. The joining is blessed by biology itself, Emperor Tai announced, his own skin patterns showing surprise and approval. At the celebration feast afterward, humans and Kalians sat together, sharing stories and learning about each other's worlds. Commander Hannah raised the glass in a toast. To Captain Park and Princess Nari, she said, may your union bring strength to both our worlds. The celebration was cut short by a priority alert. The Moro hegemony had launched their main fleet toward Kalia Prime. The honeymoon would have to wait. 3 months of intense work followed. Human engineers worked alongside Kalian scientists to integrate their technologies. Earth ships arrived to join the defense fleet, their captains bringing new battle strategies unfamiliar to the Kalians. June and Neri were at the center of it all, bridging the gap between two very different species. When the Moro attack finally came, it was massive. Hundreds of their dark ships appeared near Kalia's outer defenses, but they faced something they had never encountered before: the unpredictable creativity of humans combined with the advanced technology of Kalians. Earth ships performed maneuvers the Moro computers couldn't predict. Kalian weapons struck with perfect precision, guided by human intuition. When the Moro attempted to jam communications, they found themselves blocked by Earth's quantum technology, which Kalia had helped improve rather than take. The battle lasted only 6 hours before the Moro fleet retreated. For the first time in their 1,000-year history of conquest, they had been decisively defeated. 2 days after the victory, Jun found Nari on the observation deck where they had first watched a sunset together months ago. She stood looking out at the stars, her skin glowing softly in the dimmed light. "There you are," he said, joining her. "The Defense Council has been looking for you." "I needed a moment of quiet," she replied. Her English had improved greatly, though she still used her translator for complex discussions, to think about everything that has happened. June stood beside her, comfortable in their shared silence. After a while, Nari turned to him. "Your human customs still surprise me," she admitted. "Today I watched human children playing with Kalian younglings in the botanical gardens. They had no common language, yet they found ways to communicate and create games together." June smiled. "Children are often better at finding common ground than adults. I'm beginning to understand why your species values chosen bonds so highly," Nari continued, her head frills moving gently. "There is strength in differences joined willingly, not just in genetic similarity." June reached out slowly and took her hand in his. Their fingers were different shapes, different colors, different biologies, yet they fit together comfortably now. "This is just the beginning of what our peoples can learn from each other," he said softly. Through the large window, they could see ships from both worlds moving together in the orbital lanes. On the observation deck itself, human and Kalian crew members worked side by side, some struggling with language, others using translation devices, but all working toward shared goals. "The Moro will return," Neri said. "They do not accept defeat easily." "And we'll be ready," Jun replied. "Together." As if to emphasize his words, her wedding ring glowed softly, and the biological pattern on her skin pulsed in response. It was a small thing, a tiny connection between profoundly different life forms, but it represented something much greater, a bridge between stars. Around them, human and Kalian crew members continued their work, forging new friendships and understanding. These were the first of many bonds forming between their species, writing a new chapter in galactic history.